This is a review of a wireless IP camera from Foscam. Now, if you're thinking, why would I want a wireless IP camera? Well, you're probably not alone. When I went on Foscam's website, it suggested that I might be putting it to one of these usages. See if there's anything on there that takes your fancy, perhaps broadcasting special occasions or watching pets. There's all sorts of things you could do with one of these cameras. Now, this particular model, the FI8916W, appears to be the latest model in the range and offers quite a lot of features. Now, I have in the past tried to review a IP camera before. I got a copy of a Foscam from China and it didn't work at all. And it seems to be a bit of a problem for them because inside the box it goes on about make sure you don't have a copy of a Foscam, so they must be getting ripped off quite a lot. Anyway, this is an official one. Let's see what's inside the box. That is a bracket thing that screws to the bottom of the camera and enables you to mount it to a wall. There's two holes in there for these screws that come in the little bag, so we'll move that out of the way. Next thing, there is a network cable. It's like an extending sort of ribbon type cable. It's reasonably long, but not perhaps long enough for everybody. This thing is very short, actually. That's the power cable. Very short power cable. Could have done with a longer one. Anyway, this is the camera itself. There's the back of it. Let's screw the antenna into that screw thread there. So there we are. It's assembled now. You can see all the different sort of buttons and sockets and things on the back there. Notice audio out and in on the right. And there you go. It looks rather like a kind of sad duck or something. But let's start trying to get this one installed. This is the bit that I was dreading because the last one, the Chinese one that I tried once before, just didn't work. It was a nightmare of a thing. I ended up putting it in a box somewhere. So let's hope we have more success with this one. Step number one, hardware installation. Well, we've done that. That was get it out of the box and screw the aerial on. So we're already well on our way. Let's move down to this next bit here. Get the camera connected to the router and get it powered. Now, even though it's a wireless camera, you have to start off by having it wired to your router, so you've got to find a spare socket on there. Now, my router's quite a distance away from this table, so I had to use a longer cable than the one they supplied, but I've plugged that in the back there now. And then the only other thing I have to do is to plug the power in to that socket on the left there. And then after a few seconds of sitting there and making me think perhaps it's broken, it finally started moving like it's supposed to do. And it kind of seemed to be surveying the scene. Bit ominous that. You can imagine these things kind of taking over the world, but there you go, it's obviously working. So let's try and get it connected up. So all the lights are flashing on the back, everything seems to be functioning well there. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put a little model in front of it, a little Lego chap here, so I've got something to film and check that it's working. So the next step is to install the software into my old MacBook here. There is of course software for Windows as well on this same disk. I've got to go in the Mac folder there to open that up and find the installer program, which is a zip file. So I'll extract that to my download folder and then double click on it, allow it access to the internet. And there is the IP address for my Foscam camera on the network. So if I double click on that, that will connect me to the camera and it'll open up a browser program using that IP address. Now, to start with, the user is admin and there is no password. And then I've got to click this second login button here. And then I've got to do the same again, admin again, no password again. And click login, and now we're properly logged into the camera. So if we click on live video, there you go, that is what the camera is seeing at the moment. So amazingly enough, we've got it up and running pretty easily. The camera has quite a bit of freedom of movement. I'll just show you it panning down with a picture-in-picture here to show you what the camera sees at the same time as you can see the camera moving. To show you a few more examples of how it can move, here I am pressing the keyboard and at the same time the camera is following my instructions for what I'm pressing on, that sort of cursor type thing on the left of the screen there. So you can go up, down, left, right. It can go all the way up and point completely vertical like that. I'm not too sure why you'd want to do that. I suppose if Tom Cruise was coming in through your roof on a wire you might need that. You can also get the camera to go left and right automatically, but it won't go all the way around. It does stop a little bit short. Now the next thing we want to try and do now, remember up till now we've been using it through a network cable. We want to get it set up to be wireless. So I'll go into the setup menus here and I'll click on scan. And after a couple of seconds, the different networks it can see pop up on screen. It's obviously got quite a decent reception, this device, because it's picking up some stuff that's quite a distance away that most things in the house don't see. Anyway, I'll enter my password into that, and then it has to reboot. It's a lot like a router in this way. Every time you change a setting, the camera has to reboot and start up again. Anyway, it's done that now, so let's disconnect that network cable and see if we can actually access the camera wirelessly. So we'll start the IP camera thing up again. This is my tip. Turn it off and start again. It didn't want to know otherwise. And we'll enter the usual details, admin and blank password, and admin again, another blank password. The router IP address has actually changed on the wireless one. It's one up from where it was before, but we'll click on live video. And there you go. We can't see anything much at the moment, so we'll pan down using that cursor control on the left there, if I can just keep my mouse finger on it, and there he is. So now we're connected over wireless. And now that it's wireless, that enables me to put the camera wherever I want inside the house, as long as I've got a power supply and it can see the wireless network. So I've put it up on the windowsill here, pointing out. While we do a few more tests, it gives us something more interesting to look at. The camera is 640 by 480 resolution. It's not HD, but it's decent enough quality. Now this is the bit that's always a nightmare, trying to access this remotely. The idea is that you can access your Foscam from wherever you are in the world, as long as you've got access to the internet and a browser. But it's always a hellish thing to set up, so I'm going to have a go with this camera and see how I get on. So what I had to do is do some port forwarding on my router, as well as change it to UDP, uploady thingamajigs and all sorts of stuff. But never mind, I got it working. It's working now on my iPad. This is over the internet rather than using my internal Wi-Fi IP address. But the thing is, this program doesn't let me point the cursor quite where I want. I can't tap those, nothing's happening. So what I did then, I downloaded a different app for my iPad, a cheap one this is, off the App Store, and then this enables you to point it where you want, just pointing on the screen there. As you can see, there's a slight lag after I press them, because of course that signal's going down the internet and to my house and things, but as you can see, it works really well. It enables me to move the camera anywhere I want on my iPad, have a look at what's going on at my house while I'm anywhere in the world with an internet connection. Also, this program's quite good, because if you tilt it this way, you've got proper cursor keys at the bottom here which enable you to move it around, but it also gives you quick access to some of the other settings that the camera has, things like changing the resolution between 320 and 240, 640, 480, the different hertz, and the brightness and contrast. If you can see here, I've slid the brightness slider up, and then a few seconds later that's what it looks like when you've put the brightness slider in the wrong place. And I'll just adjust the contrast the same way, so just slide it up here, out over the internet, back to my house, and there's the camera adjusting. So that's quite impressive how you can get it to do that. Well, it impressed me anyway. One of the features of this camera is supposed to be its ability for two-way sound. That means I could listen to the sound that the camera was hearing at a remote location, as well as shout back to the camera, "Oi, stop nicking my stuff," and it would play out through the speaker. However, on my computer it didn't work. It said I was missing a plugin. It gave a link to download the plugin, which led to the Videolan website, but the plugin isn't there anymore. So I couldn't get the sound to work through my computer browser. However, all's not lost, because that iPad app I've got does let me listen to sound from the camera. So to test that out, I'm going to play back one of my own recordings and see what that sounds like in the other room. This is one of two reviews of things that I've been sent by photography and cinema.com. I suppose it's fairer to say that maybe the sound problems were caused by that iPad app rather than the camera, and maybe the sound works fine on a PC rather than a Mac. There is one additional feature that unfortunately I wasn't able to test, and that's that the camera is supposed to have motion detection settings which enable it to send out emails including photos when it sees motion. Unfortunately though, I couldn't get it to accept my email account settings. But one thing we will test out now is the night vision capabilities. Notice here when I cover this sensor with my thumb, these LEDs come on around the lens. You can also switch those on manually if you want. They do show up slightly red, although they don't show up as purple as they do on this camera in real life. Now what I'm doing now, I'm putting it at one end of my garage on top of the car roof to see how much of an area it can light up. So what we're going to do, we're looking at the stream from the camera on the iPad here that's on the bonnet of the car. There's me waving like a lunatic. Hello, lunatic. And I'm going to put my thumb on the light switch. Oh, it's a finger. On the light switch here, and then zoom in on the iPad. This is complex, isn't it? Zoom in on the iPad, and then we'll switch the light off, and we'll see what the camera can see with its night vision. Right, for a second, nothing. Then the night vision will kick in, and there you go. That's what it can see in complete darkness. That's pretty good. There he is again, that old nutcase waving. Yeah, sort of. Turn on the light switch, and please, hello. There's a bit of a delay here, I think. And there we go. So that is what it should look like. So that's pretty good. That night vision works really well. But don't try using it inside through a window, because if you do, this will happen. Basically, it looks like a nuclear bomb's gone off in your face. And there's just one final thing I wanted to demonstrate, the fact this camera will work over 3G. So here I am near a famous structure. This is Manchester United's Old Trafford football ground where they play some sort of kickball game or something. The reason I was there, I was dropping someone off for one of the Olympic football matches. But it enabled me to demonstrate in front of an object that people might recognise that I'm away from my house looking at my empty garage over a 3G connection. So that was my review of the Foscam wireless IP camera. The model was the FI8916W. Apparently it's the latest model in the range, and on a whole it worked fine. Now this camera was supplied to me by Scott from SmartCam Direct. You might remember them as sending me the car camera some time ago. Well, they're now selling this as well, £74. They also do a slightly cheaper model, and of course they also still sell smart cams, which turns out to be a bit of a tongue twister, so whether Scott still sells smart cams by the seashore, I'm not too sure. But for the moment, thanks for watching.